Poverty is expensive.
America has literally built a system where being poor is more expensive. On a bill you couldn't afford? Well, now you owe more. Miss a payment because you were trying to juggle rent and groceries? Well, now your credit drops and you owe even more money. Overdraw your account by a few dollars? Well, now you owe $50. Like, the system punishes you for already being behind.
Money don't come in on time, late fees. Out the tail, late fees. And then we gotta be even more late because you gave me a late fee and knowing that I didn't have the amount when I was supposed to have it. Surely you don't think I have room for extra money at a later date.
Everyone in this country is cash poor. Everybody. The millionaires are cash poor. The billionaires are cash poor. You think that you're supposed to be spending money to keep up with millionaires and billionaires. They're not spending money. They're not. Millionaires are robbing Peter to pay Paul. The billionaires are Paul. Our infrastructures only benefit the billionaires. Only benefit the billionaires, not the millionaires, not the thousandaires, not the middle class people, not the poor. It only benefits the billionaires.
Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. You can support uncensored conversations via Cash App or buying your girl a coffee. Hey y'all, I just want to pop in here and have a conversation about how expensive it is to be poor. This might sound crazy if you haven't experienced being low income, but there are so many hidden fees, hidden costs when it comes to being poor, living paycheck to paycheck, that I don't think a lot of people consider. And it's one of the reasons why climbing out of poverty is extremely difficult. Now, I'm not one of those people that thinks everything in life should be easy. No, I do think that hard work, perseverance, sacrifice does build character. So I'm not one of those people that thinks that everyone should just get everything that they've ever wanted without having to work for it. No. Bootstrap your way through life as best you can. Be as creative as you can. That's my mindset. However, there are things that we should talk about in regard to how difficult it is to crawl, climb, propel yourself out of poverty. One of the aspects of being poor that makes it extremely expensive is that you essentially pay more for everything. If you've ever had a Sam's Club membership or Costco or any of these buy in bulk retailers, then you already know where I'm going with this. When you go to those stores, you buy a lot of things up front, and the cost per ounce or the cost per pound is significantly smaller because you're buying in bulk. Another example would be beef. If you were to buy an entire cow or half a cow, okay, if you go to these websites and you buy half a cow, it's going to feed you for about, depending on how big your family is, it's going to feed you for about 8 to 10 months. Most people do not have $1,000 that they can put up front in order to save that amount of money in the long run. What you opt for is buying a smaller amount at a premium because you can't afford to buy it in bulk at a discount.
This right here is a half a beef. It goes from this to all of this. All vacuum sealed, ready for your freezer. How long would this last for your family?
All right, y'all, it's tax season. I hope y'all ain't spent y'all tax money up. I'm pretty sure most of y'all have, but y'all know that every year I talk about how I order half a cow for my family. And I talk about and I explain, because a lot of people don't know that that process even exists. And, you know, is grass-fed beef tastes completely different from that sludge you get from the grocery store, and at the end of the day it comes out way cheaper than going to the store and just get. I always tell y'all do this around tax season because it is a lot of money up front. As you see, the deposits is 200, 400, 800, and then the end price will end up being what you see at the top. But overall, I mean, throughout the year you're gonna save way more money than that if you're going to the store.
It costs more per unit simply because you don't have enough money up front. So being poor means you are paying a premium for a smaller amount of things. And this kind of reminds me of the conversation I had about apartments, where if you have a shorter lease, it's more expensive versus a longer lease, which gives you a bunch of different discounts because you're going to be staying there longer. If you have to buy in small supply, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but if you have to buy in small supply, then you're going to pay a lot more per unit for that product, which adds up. It absolutely does add up. Another aspect of this is if you have bad credit, and bad credit becomes a poverty tax.
If your score is low, lenders charge you more. 20% interest, 30, even 36. And if you pay, they cash out big. If you don't, no sweat. They take your car, your deposit, your fees. They still win. And this doesn't just apply for loans or credit cards. Insurance companies check your score too. And if it's low, they'll charge you more for home and car insurance. You're getting hit from all angles. Then there's collections. When you default, the debt gets sold to collectors for pennies, like 10 cents on the dollar. Now they own it, and they'll pull your report, call you, try to sue you. So who profits? Everyone. The lender, the collector, the credit bureaus, they all pay to access your report. And the worse your report is, the more valuable it becomes. Because your report predicts risk. They don't need you to pay your debt. They just need your data to stay messy so they can sell it over and over and over again.
If you have late payments, if you have something in collection, and not everybody, and I want to make sure I make this very clear, not everybody ends up in these situations because of poor decisions. Some people end up in these situations because of health complications. You get diagnosed with cancer, you have United Healthcare, they're not covering it, and you still need to get those treatments. Guess what? You got to foot the bill, and that's going to be hanging over your head. So whereas you could be paying your mortgage, whereas you could be paying your car, credit cards, whatever it is that you need to pay for, a chunk of your money is going towards paying off medical debt. Not everybody ends up in these situations because they're just irresponsible. You might find yourself in a terrible credit situation for whatever reason. Maybe you were irresponsible. Some people are in these predicaments because they are blatantly irresponsible with their money. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They just buying a bunch of stuff and they have no rhyme or reason to it. And now they want to get online and beg for some money because they were stupid.
Did you hear about the single mom who was given $50,000 to help her get on her feet? But as soon as she got the money, her ex came back and now she's broke again. Her community rallied around her and gathered up donations totaling $50,000 so she and her kids would be okay. Guess what? Her ex decided he want to come back and be a family again. He came back and blew through all those donations and now she's broke again.
We got a mix of all types of people that end up in these situations. But when you have bad credit, that becomes a poverty tax. So if your credit is low, guess what? You're paying higher interest rates. You have larger deposits, higher insurance premiums. Your past mistakes become reoccurring monthly expenses. If your credit is good and you have oodles of money, you're not worrying about it. For instance, if we're talking about buying a house, you might have a mortgage that is $1,700 a month simply because your credit is good and you can afford your closing costs, down payment, all of that. Whereas if you have bad credit, you become a high risk investment. In order to offset that, what they do is they charge you more. For the same house, $1,700. For the same house, you might be paying $2,800, $3,100 for your mortgage simply because you are a high risk. So it's more expensive to have bad credit and not have a safety net of funds when it comes to getting an apartment, getting insurance, buying a house, buying a car. All of these things really do add up, and bad credit essentially boils down to a poverty tax. And on top of that, I mentioned cars. A reliable car can save you so much money. Time is money. So not having to wait for the bus, not having to carpool, wait for somebody else, not worrying about whether or not your car is going to break down on the way to work. All of these things cost money and time and money. The time you're spending waiting for the bus, you could be making some money doing a side hustle or taking care of something at the house or whatever the case may be, having a second job, who knows? Having a reliable car saves you so much money. However, if you cannot afford a reliable car and you have to get a Hoopty, okay, a Pinto, if you can only afford that, then that unreliable source of transportation is going to drain your pockets. Repairs, towing, missed work, all of that. You know, it might seem like you're getting good discount. Hey, I got this car for $1,500, but how much money are you going to be spending? How much time are you going to be losing trying to keep that car pushing? New tires, oil change, your transmission goes out.
That cheaper car will cost you more than a $10,000 to $15,000 car, and here's why. You get a car that's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It's at the end of life, high mileage, things are wore out. You end up fixing it on a monthly basis. So where you think, hey, I'm going to spend $5,000 on a car because I don't want a payment, but you end up with service bills, $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. You're really making a car payment, honestly, at the end of the day. So that's my opinion. Is sometimes those cheaper cars will cost you more than really putting that $5,000 down and making a small payment. Not to mention, a $10,000 or $15,000 car is going to last you 4 or 5 years at least. You get a $3,000, $4,000 car, you might run through that car in a year or two, and you got to buy another one.
These are things to consider, and it ultimately does make living, transporting yourself to and fro, that much more expensive. And here's another thing, and all of this kind of compounds on itself. You end up not being able to afford to save. Many people think that poor people don't save because they're irresponsible, and for some, yes. For some of y'all, yes, your ass is mad irresponsible. That's why you cannot save a damn dime. However, for some, they simply do not have enough margin in order to save. So by the time you done paid your rent, by the time you done paid your car note, or if you don't have a car note, by the time you paid off them tires that you had to get, that transmission you had to get, all these different things that you had to do to that hoopty, okay, the Batmobile, all these different things that you had to do to that car to keep it pushing, after you pay for groceries, any other little things that you need to survive, you're not left with anything. And for a lot of Americans, you're left in the negative. You're absolutely left in the negative. If you don't have anything left over to save, guess what? You're not saving. There's no room to save money. There are different ways to get creative. I've seen so many really good videos, and I mean, you're still paying a premium. Going back to one of the first points we made, if you can't buy in bulk, you're paying a premium for that item. However, there are some wonderful channels on TikTok, and there are probably some on YouTube as well, where they show you how to turn food that you find from the Dollar Tree into hearty meals. I think that content like that is so necessary and useful, especially for folks that are going through it, right? The economy is trash. Folks are going through it. I'm not one of those people that want to sit around and just wag the finger. I would rather you have resources to figure your out. I would rather you have the knowledge in order to make it work while things aren't working. There are awesome videos, and I'll insert a clip here of what I'm talking about, where they show you how to make really good meals out of items that you get from the Dollar Tree.
First thing I do when I get here is I check prices on things, keep in mind, and then start to put things together in my head. For example, see these beans here? The whole shelf here is $1.50. So I'm gonna keep that in mind. As I got beans in my mind, I'll come over and I'll start checking rice. I'll see what has the most flavor, protein, or vitamins, and then make my decision from there. For example, Mexican style rice and those beans will go good together as far as a flavor profile. So right there, if I were to grab one of these and one of those, that's $3. I don't need to add any seasonings because it's all flavored. Now I would come to the frozen section where most of the meats and proteins are. And for something like this, for $5 plus those rice and beans, you just made an entire meal for $8. There's a glaze in this bag that'll work throughout the whole process. A little emulsification, which I taught you in other videos, will get the job done. And that's why I teach emulsification, flavor profiling, the do's, the don'ts, and all the seasonings inside of already made foods. So you guys can do it at home, enjoy a decent meal for an affordable price.
Now, I kind of hinted at this before, but time then becomes a luxury. Waiting for the bus, standing in lines, comparing prices, working multiple jobs. Time is money, and when you're poor, you lose both. It makes crawling out of poverty that much harder. When it comes to people that don't worry about their resources, they're not sitting there waiting for public transit, unless they just want to, unless they just like taking the bus or taking the train, and it's just, time for them to just chill and listen to music or whatever the case may be. Unless they have that luxury, they're not sitting there waiting on no bus or train, unless they absolutely just want to do it. They're not standing in the grocery store for that extra 20 minutes trying to figure out if it's cheaper to get this or cheaper to get that, comparing prices. They're not using their time to clip out coupons and find every bit of savings that they can. All of these things really do add up. Your time becomes a luxury. When you are poor, you don't have time to not Nara Smith it up in the kitchen, okay? You don't have time to just sit and chill and relax, because that time you're actually trying to work your way out of poverty is going to be spent either trying to get to your job, trying to find another job, or trying to save money, penny pinch wherever you can. And I want to really hit hard on this point. Cheap products cost more. And I learned this the hard way.
There's a reason why rich people stay rich and poor people stay poor, and it's not what you might think. It all comes down to one fundamental belief when purchasing goods, and that is rich people purchase once and never purchase again. Poor people purchase once and purchase over and over again. If a coffee machine is worth $2,000, you might think it's expensive. So you go for the coffee machine that is worth $600 because it's cheaper. But what you don't see is that the $600 coffee machine is going to die on you way faster, and it's not gonna have the lifespan of the $2,000 coffee machine. So ultimately, over time, you're gonna purchase the $600 coffee machine, and you might have to purchase another one in a year or in a year and a half, or it might break down in 6 months. Meaning you're gonna have to spend $600 now, $600 in a year, $600 in the next 6 months, and it's gonna become more expensive than if you have purchased the $2,000 coffee machine. And that goes for everything, like I mentioned, shoes, pants, shirts, coffee machines, whatever you wanna put it. It's not about the price tag of the item, it's about the actual cost per use of the item. If you look at things that way, you'll get more money out of your item, and you'll stop spending more money in the long run.
I have learned this the hard way. I will give you guys an example. Y'all, I remember back when, phones had headphone jacks. They don't really have that anymore, but back in the day, okay, showing my age, back in my time, cell phones had an aux jack where you could plug in your headphones and listen to your music. You don't have to worry about Bluetooth or anything like that. You just plug it in and go. Me being cheapy Sandra, I didn't want to pay Bluetooth prices, okay? Because they still had the option there. I wasn't trying to pay them Bluetooth prices, so I would opt for the cheap headphones that you just plug into your phone. And what I found was those little cheap headphones didn't last me but a lick. I bend them the wrong way. Next thing you know, the song is skipping, it's staticky, or I have to bend it a certain way to make it work. And so over time, replacing headphones after headphones after headphones after headphones, by that time I could have just bought a good quality Bluetooth headphone and been good that entire time. But no, let me keep reinvesting in this cheap product that continues to disappoint me and break down, all because I did not want to pay that upfront money. It seems like it's more because, yeah, $70, $80, in the hundreds of dollars if you want to get real fancy when it comes to headphones. Yeah, it seems like it's more expensive because the upfront cost is higher than like a $7 headphone. Well, cheapy earbud joints. But in the long run, them $7, $8 add up, and you're left with what to show for it? Whereas if I just paid the money up front, I would have those headphones for the duration of the time that I had all them cheapy headphones, but even longer. Cheap products, they don't wear as well. If you buy super cheap shoes, the bottoms aren't gonna be working. You're gonna have, shoes that are talking every single time you take a step. Cheap appliances, they break down. Cheap furniture, first of all, not comfortable, but then also break down. And then you find yourself replacing them repeatedly. Whereas someone might buy a more expensive shoe, a more expensive appliance, a more expensive piece of furniture, and guess what? They make that purchase once. I do eventually want to do a video on the Temufication of pretty much everything that we buy, because nowadays even the products that are priced where they should last aren't built to last. Shout out to the iPhones that become bricks when they want to sell you a new iPhone. In the general sense, there are some items that if you pay the premium, they will last you forever. They will, well, maybe not forever, but they will last you for a very, very long time. There are some folks that have their great-grandparents' furniture and it's still comfortable. It still looks good. It may have like a little rustic patina kind of thing going to it because it's aged, but it's still beautiful. It's still functional because it's quality. Okay, you paid for that quality up front, and then you have generations to appreciate it.
The cheapest option is going to be less at checkout, but it can cost you more in replacement costs, wasted time, inconvenience, and frustration. As a frugal gal, I'm not saying that the most expensive item is automatically better, but I am saying that price and value are not the same thing.
You keep on thinking that buying the cheapest option is actually saving you money, but what actually happens, and because I've tried this, is you buy the cheap option, it doesn't satisfy by you, so then you go and resort to actually buying the name brand option. So you're not saving money, you're actually just spending it twice. Once on something that you think is, oh, cheap, so it's a good deal. But honey, a good deal does not always equal saving money or being financially responsible.
So I'm here to tell you that paying a premium is not always bad, because you are going to get the level of quality and the product that you actually wanted, as opposed to making a risk and hoping that the cheaper option will be what you wanted or the service that you wanted. The motto I live by is buy once, cry once.
There are some cheaper items that do us justice, okay? I'm not gonna sit over here and say all cheap items break down terribly. No, you might be able to find a diamond in the rough. You might be able to find a diamond in the rough that beats all odds. And it is chef's kiss, lasts for a decent amount of time, and you get way more than your money's worth. By all means, that does exist, but you're gambling, okay? You're gambling every single time you buy that cheapo thing off of Temu. Every time you buy that cheapo thing off of Wish, okay? You might not get what you wish for. Another thing, health. When you have access to resources, you can better invest in preventative care. You can invest in healthier foods. You can invest in getting a gym subscription. There are so many different ways that we can prevent health issues, regular dental checkups, doctor checkups, just all these different things that are preventative to avoid health pitfalls in the future. When you are poor, a lot of these things get postponed until they become a problem. Why? Because you can't afford it. Preventative care can be expensive. Essentially, you have small problems that could be nipped in the bud, with preventative care. They snowball, okay? They snowball into major medical bills, because once it gets too bad to the point where you rush into the emergency room because you're having a problem, then guess what? Now, healthcare becomes extremely expensive. It's reactive rather than preventative. Being poor is mad expensive, okay? Your average poor person is paying more, in a sense. They're paying more for basic things than somebody that's doing well off. If you are that person that you're doing well, I suggest you count your blessings, okay? Any of us can end up in terrible situations in the blink of an eye, whether it's a medical emergency, accidents, you name it, getting laid off from your job. Life is unexpected. We never know what's going to happen to us. So I really do want y'all to keep in mind before you start thugging in the comments about how poor people are this and poor people are that could be you. If it was you and you climbed your way out of it, guess what? It could be you again. Rather than us sitting over here and making fun of each other, the best thing that we can do is kind of rally together and figure out solutions. If you have any tips or tricks that help you save money, please let us know in the comments, okay? Let us know in the comments, because we all can end up in this position, and you never know. You might read a comment under this video. It gives you a tip on saving money, and then maybe in a few years, you need that tip. It comes right back to your mind, okay? You filed it away in your brain, and then when you need it, you're able to access it again. So if you have any money saving, different tips, please sound off in the comment section down below. I am curious to hear you guys' thoughts. If you like the video, The more you interact with it, the more it gets pushed out into the algorithm. Also, hype the video if that's for you, okay? If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. If you're feeling a little extra generous, the link is in the description to buy your girl a coffee. Thank you guys so much, and I will see y'all with the next one. Deuces.